Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's topic, handheld authentication of counterfeit alcohol proliferation, with an established guest, Mitchell Weinberg.
Mitchell is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of INSCATECH. INSCATECH is the first and only company of its kind in the world. Using its proprietary methodology and specially trained food fraud detection professionals, INSCATECH conducts food supply chain vulnerability assessments to identify the sources of food fraud and to recommend mitigation solutions that help to prevent our food from being adulterated. Food producers, retailers, and food service companies employ INSCATECH to ensure that their supply chains and food products are secure from food fraud, realizing that there is a major problem with counterfeit alcohol, yet no way for consumers to determine whether a product is real or counterfeit. INSCATECH created a simple yet foolproof solution for consumers to identify product authenticity. Real ID is a patent-pending solution that was created by INSCATECH's principles. Real ID is a scratch-off label that consumers scratch prior to purchase, scan with their smartphones, and get an immediate alert, advising the product is authentic or not. This simple solution is the first solution that empowers consumers, the ultimate victims of counterfeiting, to fight back against fraud. Mitchell is a graduate of Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada, where he obtained a Bachelor of Arts in pre-law and sociology, and the McGill University of Law in Montreal, Canada, where he obtained his common law, LL.B, and civil law, B.C.I degrees.
Now, welcome with me, Mitchell Weinberg. Mitchell?
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you again, Andy. It's a pleasure to talk to you once again.
Well, would you like to update us on any of your current activities?
Well, we are delving deeper and deeper into the world of food fraud, and the world gets even more precarious and more scary. One of the things that we came across, actually, in doing our vulnerability assessments is a major problem with counterfeit alcohol. And the proliferation of counterfeit alcohol is a global problem of immense proportion, and we tried to find out a way to actually curb this problem. And I think we may have come up with a solution that really does that. Probably the first solution of its kind that will actually help consumers determine prior to purchase whether the alcohol that they are about to buy and consume is in fact authentic.
Mitchell, can you just back up for a minute and explain to our 79,000 listeners, primarily food production managers, food quality managers, food safety managers, and food security managers, what is counterfeit food?
Well, counterfeit is one of 7 categories of food fraud, perhaps being the easiest for people to understand. Counterfeit food is like any other counterfeiting. The packaging, labeling, everything about the product looks to be real or authentic, but in reality, the product itself is absolutely fabricated, false, and inauthentic.
Excellent explanation. What is the frequency of counterfeit alcohol, since that has been a recent interest of yours?
Well, Andy, the frequency is absolutely staggering. It's estimated that as high as 1/3 of all commercial alcohol is illicitly produced. There's little information sharing about counterfeit statistics, simply because the producers of alcohol do not want to create panic globally. But when you think of the statistic being 1/3 of all alcohol being produced is illicit, it's absolutely staggering, and these are global statistics.
That seems to be a big challenge, and as you mentioned, it's a worldwide situation for consumers of this product. What can consumers do to protect themselves from this illicit counterfeit alcohol?
Well, there are a variety of technologies that the alcohol producers are using to make the bottles and labels more difficult to replicate. Consumers really can't do very much at this point in terms of identifying whether it's real or fake, unless they're buying, frankly, from what they would deem to be reputable sources. So it's common sense, Andy. If you're getting a bottle of alcohol, which you know to be very pricey or expensive, for a fraction of the price, there's a very, very good possibility that that bottle is not authentic or counterfeit. The real concern here is, Andy, that this is a major public health issue because there have been many, many, many deaths, and deaths very recently in different countries around the world from the consumption of counterfeit or fake alcohol. So we have come up with a solution, I think, that helps consumers determine whether what they're about to drink is in fact authentic, and that will give them the comfort they need that they're not going to get sick or even die from having a drink.
Well, Mitchell, that's an exciting innovation for technology. Can you let us know first, what are the historical methods that have been available to determine genuine from fraudulent products?
Well, generally, as I mentioned before, there are methods in place. If you think of currency, there are methods in place of ensuring that dollar bills are, in fact, authentic. So they can embed technologies in the dollar bill to ensure that it's actually authentic, something that can be read with a light, or if you rub a marker over a dollar bill, a certain color will be revealed if it's inauthentic. So in alcohol production, they're using devices like nanotechnology in the labeling. They're using holograms and seals and inks that can be verified at certain points throughout the distribution process. The fundamental issue is that there has been, up until now, no solution whatsoever that will allow consumers to determine easily that the product is authentic or not.
Mitchell, what you are bringing to our program, the AME Food Testing Show, is a new technology. I believe it is called Real-Eyed. Can you explain that?
Well, it's actually a play on words, Andy. It's called Real ID. So what Real ID is actually very simply a scratch-off label that you will find on the liquor bottles, much like the scratch-off surfaces that you can see on a lottery ticket. Once you scratch off the label, you take any smartphone scanning application, and you will reveal, by scratching off the label, a barcode or QR code. When you scan that QR code with your phone, instantaneously you will get a message on your screen that tells you, A, that the product is authentic, or B, that the product has previously been scanned. If the product's been previously scanned, it will tell you how many times it has been scanned, and it will be an indicator to you, if it has been previously scanned, that the product is not authentic. It means that somebody scanned it before. And it's as simple as that. So the arrangement will be that as the vendor brings the bottle of alcohol or wine or whatever it happens to be to you, or as you take it up to the cash, you will scan the label. You will scratch the label first, reveal the barcode, and then scan it with your smartphone and instantaneously know whether the product is authentic or not, and if it's not, you refuse to purchase it.
Amazing. So these scratch-off labels are unique or each bottle? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. Each scratch-off label, and it's a very good question, Andy, each scratch-off label contains a unique identification code. And each time the label is actually scanned, that is recorded on a very secure database and conveys back to the person scanning it that the product has never been scanned before or has been scanned before, indicating inauthenticity or that it's counterfeit.
Fascinating. So the computer program housing this validation program is separate from the vendor of the product. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that's a real differentiating factor. The idea here was to prepare a solution that could assure consumers that the product is authentic, and it is separate and apart. We are doing the actual authentication. We are working, of course, with the producers to put the labels on their products and establish to us that the products are in fact authentic. However, we are ultimately determining and conveying to consumers whether the product is authentic or not.
Intriguing. Let me ask you a question, Mitchell, and it relates to a global perception of liquor by consumers. Now, if a consumer were to purchase a product that doesn't have this label, and you're saying that there is a high percentage of all liquor that is counterfeit, they are taking a risk. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, and let me give you a practical example. Name brand alcohols are selling many products in China and Russia, to give you an example. Using China as the example, there is a very rapidly growing middle class who likes to show off their newly acquired wealth. So what they like to do is get a group of friends together, go to a bar, and purchase a really expensive bottle of booze and have it cracked open at the table and serve it to their friends. They're really trying to impress their friends. So what's been happening in China is the bar owners are actually saving the bottles at the end of the evening, sending them out, getting them recapped, and refilling them with bootleg alcohol. Sometimes, and this is how severe it's been, some of the substitutes that have been used include ethylene glycol, which is basically antifreeze, which attacks the kidneys and heart and is potentially fatal. Methanol, which attacks the retinal nerve and can result in blindness. And isopropyl alcohol, which is more commonly known as rubbing alcohol. So they're using the cheapest possible forms of alcohol, many of which are toxic and can cause death. So what Real ID does is when the bar owner brings the bottle to the table, it enables the purchaser to scratch off the scratch-off surface, scan the QR code with their smartphone, and determine whether that bottle has ever been scanned before or not. It's as simple as that.
That offers a considerable minimization of risk because you're a third-party, independent database that cannot be hacked, and it offers consumers an avoidance of that poisoning risk. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree, and that was the intention. I mean, food fraud is a significant public health risk, and frankly, counterfeit alcohol poses perhaps one of the most significant risks to people globally. There have literally been deaths all over the world resulting from the proliferation of counterfeit alcohol. It's estimated in the UK, for example, that in the last 12 months, more than 60 people have died as a result of methanol poisoning. And there's a prediction by the Institute of Economic Affairs in the UK that they are set to increase, that deaths will increase by about as much as 500% over the next 5 years because of counterfeit alcohol proliferation. In September 2012 in the Czech Republic, there was a huge 38 deaths from methanol poisoning, and many were hospitalized. In Russia, it's estimated that there are 12,000 deaths annually from consuming counterfeit alcohol. This is a very, very serious problem.
Well, you certainly couched it in the net effect of life or death with the intent of buying a quality product and the risk of a counterfeit product. Mitchell, can I ask you, when will this technology be available?
Andy, we're just going out to market right now. What we believe will happen, we are approaching a handful of large liquor producers. What we believe will happen is that as soon as one of them embraces it, and they are very concerned about this problem, as soon as one of them embraces it, we think the entire industry will embrace it. Consumers are really demanding a solution to this problem. And we're starting with alcohol, but then we're going to move on to other high-end and highly consumed products that can be easily verified in this manner. So we are starting with alcohol because it's probably the one substance that's causing the most harm and most deaths, and that's why we started with it. But we will eventually be moving on to other highly adulterated and counterfeit products as well.
Well, Mitchell, as the interviewer of the AME Food Testing Show, I wish you the best in this project. And my hope is that it will expand to other projects and products which will protect consumers from these horrible consequences of intentionally fraudulent food items which people consume. Can you let us know about the history and the future of your company and any concluding remarks that you wish to contribute?
Sure. INSCATECH is the first company of its kind in the world. We are basically the first food fraud detection and prevention company. So we've been in existence for approximately 4 years, and we are working with the world's leading food producers, retailers, as well as food service companies to conduct supply chain vulnerability assessments. So we actually send teams of experts into the field, and these are fraud detection experts, which track the food from its origins all the way up the supply chain to determine when, where, and how, and by whom food is being adulterated. The idea is to provide our clients with protection against food fraud. By giving them this kind of visibility, they're able to take steps which we will suggest to them that will enhance overall supply chain security and help to minimize food fraud. Because food fraud in these economically difficult times globally is ever increasing. The people who produce our food ingredients around the world are looking for ways to make more money without regard for the consequences. So we are in the business of detecting where that is happening and preventing it from what's happening in the future.
Excellent summary, Mitchell. My feelings on food exactly align with the philosophy of your organization, and that is to protect consumers and protect the integrity of the manufacturing companies. Would you like to add any final comments to our enlightening discussion today?
Well, I would say only this, Andy. We need people like you in the food industry who are looking for ways to make our overall food supply safer, and that is our mission. What's interesting about people in our industry, and more so than other industries, is our primary motivation is driven by good intentions and promoting public health, because we all have to eat, and we all want to ensure that the food that the general public is consuming is safe to eat. And it's just an immense pleasure to work with people like yourself and people involved in food safety as well as food fraud prevention to really make our food supply so much safer. It gives meaning to what we do every single day.
Mitchell, I'd like to thank you for volunteering your time today. And again, you have my personal endorsement on your efforts to protect consumers from food fraud and the unfortunate likelihood of death from consumption of counterfeit alcohol. Thank you for your time, and I wish you a great day.
Thank you very much once again, Andy. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Bye
You
now.
too. Bye-bye.